Hey there guys, this is Mr. George and this is Web Lecture 7.2. Today we're going to talk about the difference between a mass production company and a boutique. And we're going to talk about all the different variables that go into the decision that you are going to make to become either a mass producer, something like Old Navy, versus a boutique, which would be maybe a high-end design couture line of clothing. And so we're going to talk about the differences that make them the way they are. So the first thing we're going to talk about is scarcity and shortage. Now, some people may think that these terms are synonymous. Scarcity is something that occurs when there is a limited quantity of resource to meet an unlimited need or desire. So things that are scarce are things that there is only a limited supply of. So diamonds, for example, are somewhat scarce. Gold is scarce. Most non-renewable resources that we've talked about in the past are scarce. So oil is also scarce. So there's a scarcity of oil in the world. And so these are products that are going to be relatively high priced because there is a limited amount of those items. And so that is scarcity. Whereas shortage is a temporary scarcity. So this occurs when producers don't have enough at the current prices. So for example, sometimes we have shortages in, let's say, cotton because there's been a drought. Or we might have a shortage in a food product for the same reason because there's been a drought. Or there are lots of items that we have shortages in. There might be a shortage of Air Jordans at a particular time, depending on when they're released, because there is a great demand, lots of people buy them. But if there is a shortage, what happens is typically the price of the item rises. But if more of that item becomes available, then the price goes down. So shortages are temporary. And so these are examples of, in both cases, limited resources, but one is a permanent limited resource while others can be temporary. Or sometimes, in some cases, businesses create artificial shortages so that they can raise the price of their item and charge a certain amount. For example, Air Jordans. That is a great example of how a company creates an artificial shortage for a product. They could make, hundreds of thousands of Air Jordans, but then of course they wouldn't be able to charge $200 a pair or whatever they do once they are first released. Now, when you have a boutique, then you are going to offer items typically there wherein there is a shortage because you're only able to, or you only choose to make a certain amount. Or you may even produce products that are scarce. However, if you run a mass production company, then you do not have a shortage or scarcity at all. Or sometimes you may have a shortage, but that's rare even for that. Now, when you are thinking about what kind of company you are going to create, you have to think about trade-offs. Now, trade-offs are essentially alternatives that we give up when we choose one course of action over another. So if you choose to open a mass production company, say like Old Navy, then there are certain things that you gain, but there are other things that you lose. So usually this is the most desirable alternative that you give up. So for example, if you open a mass production company, you gain the fact that you sell a lot of products, you gain that you have a lot of customers, but the trade-off here is that you cannot charge a lot of money for your goods. Because if you don't have scarcity or a shortage of your items, then people typically are not going to pay a lot of money. Another trade-off for a mass production company is typically your products are not going to be as high quality, because if you're producing a lot of them, then that limits the ability to control quality. So that's another trade-off. And so as individuals, we make trade-offs all the time. When we talked about the economics of time in class the other day, we talked about the fact that you make certain decisions about your wants. So when you get home after school, you may want to get sleep because you're tired, but you also may want good grades. So your trade-off here is you immediately come home and watch your web lecture, and then you trade off the fact that you can't sleep. So sleeping would be your most desirable alternative that you gave up in order to do your web lecture immediately so that you can get good grades. And so there are lots of trade-offs that we are part of every single day of our lives. So as you're thinking about this, think about some trade-offs that you have in your daily life as you make decisions of what to do and what not to do. Now, when we are making decisions, essentially every decision we make, we, in our minds, create a decision-making model. And this is something that economists encourage us to do because it basically considers the costs and the benefits of every one of our decisions. And so every single day we are making these decision-making models in our mind. We don't make formal ones written out on paper every time we have to make a decision. If that were the case, it would take forever for us to make any decision. But informally, we create these decision-making models. So for example, if you're at the grocery store and you're looking at 2 boxes of cereal, you're looking at multi-grain Cheerios and Fruit Loops. Well, they're both round, so that's something that kind of doesn't go either way. But certainly, Cheerios are healthier, Cheerios are better for you, Cheerios give you more energy, there's more nutrients in Cheerios. However, Fruit Loops taste better in some people's estimation. They are more fun to look at because they're bright and colorful. You might get a toy with the Fruit Loops in the box, so there are benefits to the Fruit Loops as well. And so you have to look at that, and so sort of look at the different elements that you want in your cereal and determine which one would be a better choice for you. And so you could, if you wanted to, sort of make a list of the pros and cons of both Cheerios and Fruit Loops, and then determine based on what you want, what your want is in an economic sense, then decide which one you would think is better for you. And so, as I said, this sort of informal decision-making model happens all the time. But today, or the next day in class, you are going to make a decision-making model for your business to determine whether you want to have a mass production company or if you want to have a boutique-type company. Now, when you are creating a business, oftentimes you want to consider what type of business you're going to create, and you want to determine whether you are going to create a business that offers goods or possibly a business that offers services. Now, sometimes your business may offer both, which is a good model as well. Now, obviously, all of you in your clothing design businesses are going to be producing goods. Rarely will you also offer services in this type of business. And a good is essentially anything that an object that you can purchase. So something when you go to the store, you get it and you take it away with you. That is a good. So shoes, shirts, hats, mops, dish detergent, it doesn't matter what it is. As long as it is a product that you take with you away from the store, then that is a good. Whereas services are activities or actions that people do for you. So whether it's a waiter or a garbage man or a bank teller or a cleaning lady or somebody that creates a service. Even I, as a teacher, am providing a service because I don't have a good per se that I'm giving you. You can't take home the knowledge that I provide for you, but you are able to. I am providing a service for you, which is the learning process. Now, I guess you could argue that my web lectures are sort of a good in and of themselves, but you can't necessarily have those forever. Anyway, so goods and services. Now there are, as I said, some businesses that produce both, like a bike company, for example, or a bike shop may produce both goods, which would be the bikes, and services, which would be tuning up the bikes or offering safety classes or something like that. So some businesses do offer both, but in general most focus on one or the other. Now, when it comes to the people involved, we have to consider who are the consumers and who are the producers. So all of us, every single one of us in this class, is a consumer. We, at some point in our life, buy something. We use it, we may wear it, we may eat it, we may play with it, whatever. We are a consumer, and we are going to the marketplace and consuming the product that is available to us. Now, some of us are also producers. Those are the people that make goods to be sold in the marketplace. And so that may be a producer of a service, producer of a good, either one, but you are still being a producer. And so when you are a producer or a consumer, one thing that you consider in some cases more than anything is pricing. Now, pricing is determined by how much, the amount of money consumers are willing to pay for a specific good. So this is when consumers and producers kind of sometimes work at odds because a consumer may want to pay less than the producer is willing to sell the product for, in which case then the product is not purchased. However, usually producers are able to gauge at what level they can charge for a product based on what consumers have paid for similar things in the past. Now, obviously, if you have a brand new product, that might be a little more difficult, but there are ways to figure that out. And so you, as a producer in class, are going to have to figure out what price you're going to charge for your good. And that's basically based on what the consumers are willing to pay. So this will be another part of your decision-making model, is to determine how much you're going to charge for these goods. So all in all, you are going to consider all the things that we've talked about today in class when you create your decision-making model. And once you have created your decision-making model, hopefully this will help you to determine whether you're going to create a mass production company or a boutique. Good luck.